good Friday evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? I am Kendrick, the sports guy, and welcome to my special edition, special live stream. We got a special guest tonight, and we are celebrating. Guess what it is? It is Women's History Month, and I got a woman that's going to be here in just a minute that's doing some big things. She got big things popping. But before we get to all that, you know the drill. When you come in the club, Kendrick, you come in here, you make sure you like, you subscribe to the YouTube channels. Those channels are Kendrick Sports Hustle, as well as TFG Sports Media on YouTube. Doesn't cost you a dime. Make sure you like and follow them both on Facebook. You can also follow me on Instagram at Kendrick1969, as well as on TikTok at Kendrick Henderson51. So I see we got one person is watching. Make sure you come in and say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. Don't be in those bushes hiding. We're talking about some dope women, and specifically this one that I have on as a guest tonight. Again, we're going to celebrate Women's History Month. You see my backdrop. I got on kind of my pink, you know. All men look good in pink. I can rock some pink. So, I got to celebrate the ladies that make it happen around the world. But without further ado, we're going to bring in my special guest, Miss Maya Golden Bethany. I got to add distinguished author to her title now because she is definitely that. My good friend, my sister, how are you doing on this lovely evening?
I'm great, and thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for honoring Women's History Month and shouting out the women in sports and women across all media. I appreciate that. It's great to see you, my friend.
Yeah, we were just talking real quick. The last time we did this was like 5 years ago. Wow, when we did a segment on Women's History Month, and I wanted to highlight you as well. So in those 5 years, what have you been up to?
Well, actually, at that time, it was pretty funny because, it was March of 2020, so everything was starting to shut down because of COVID. So we was all in the house at that point in time.
Right, right.
And at that very moment, I had kind of been working on my writing and looking into the publishing industry and trying to break into the literary world. But when the world shut down and we were stuck in the house, it really was my time to focus on writing and learning about writing. The literary world's an entirely different industry, not much like news. And I think I foolishly thought that it was going to be just that easy, like, oh, I can pitch this and it'll get picked up. No. So I really became a student in March of 2020, and I started taking workshops online, learning about how to write, learning about how to query and send out, pitches to agents and literary publishers. And so I spent most of that spring and that summer doing just that. And then by October of the following year, I signed my first book deal.
Wow. So we're going to talk more about that later on, but we're going to delve into these women that's making things happen in sports. Again, joining me live is my good friend, distinguished author Maya Thomas-Bethany. So let's go ahead and get into this first topic, Maya. Let's talk about women's sports, obviously. Since we last did this thing, man, the WNBA and women's college basketball has skyrocketed, just to name one sport in particular. But overall, we've seen an uptick in interest and more coverage in women's sports around the globe and in this country. What's your thoughts on where women's sports now stand?
I really think that the media market just finally began to understand that it's not just women that watch women's sports, and that women aren't just relegated. And I say this as a former sideline reporter, but women are not just relegated to being on the sidelines, even in men's sports, that we offer insight, commentary. We've seen women doing play by play for football, baseball, basketball at the pro level. So I really think that once it became more aware and there became more insight into the data, that they started looking at young girls, young women who were idolizing a lot of these college players, like you said, WNBA players. The arenas are packed, and for a lot of those cities. And so I feel like the media world finally just kind of caught up on it. And I do think a large part of that also has been because of social media. I
Mhm.
think the boom in social media has allowed those leagues to get more exposure. And on the flip side of it, I hear my guy friends say, "Oh, them girls can hoop." It's like we've always been able to. Well, I haven't, but they always been able to do exactly what
Right.
they're doing. It's
Yeah.
now that the world is paying more attention. So, it's exciting. I think it's a great time in sport for women as far as coverage, as far as being an athlete. There's still obviously a lot of ways to go.
Mhm.
There's still a lot of bias and
Mhm.
that's we're gonna be talking a little bit about some of the coverage and things that come up, but it's been interesting to see that change and even in the merchandise and the marketing. I mean, I don't think when I was growing up you could I know that you couldn't. First of all, the WNBA was just starting when I was, in college,
Mm.
and secondly, if you wanted a women's jersey from any team, that had to be a custom order, and so now
Mhm.
go to
Right.
I'm not gonna shout out any particular store, but you can go to one of
Right.
the sports stores and see a jersey and see men wearing the jerseys as well. So it's a fun time and I hope that it continues to grow.
And you said something that I find interesting, because I think a lot of sports media coverage is kind of jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak. And I can remember a particular incident with Monica McNutt on ESPN First Take with Stephen A. Smith, and they were talking about the WNBA coverage in particular. We're gonna talk about this too, Caitlin versus Angel Reese, and she called him out on, the WNBA's been around here for quite a few years, but you ain't really done a lot of coverage on women up until now. Do
Now,
you feel the same way about a lot of these media outlets when it comes to
absolutely,
women coverage?
100%.
Okay.
Even going down to the high school level,
Hmm.
in our state of Texas, football is king, and so a lot of the girls' high school sports weren't getting a lot of attention. And I know for a fact in East Texas there are some high schools that have dynasties. I mean, we're talking about they go to state every year, they bring home the trophies every year,
Right.
and I mean, it goes without saying for those schools, but we didn't really see the coverage on the regional level or outside of maybe our smaller media markets. And I think finally too, I tried to be aware of that when I was pitching stories like, hey, the girls teams are doing their thing and
Hmm.
making sure that that coverage is there. But I do feel that first of all, I love anytime that Stephen A. Smith gets called out on anything, but I particularly love that because yes, like I said, the WNBA it's not new. It's just we've got players who have brought in the draw, they've brought in attention, they are getting coverage outside of the same way that, you see, I mean, Stephen Curry just or Stephen Curry just had the movie The GOAT, in
Hmm.
theaters, and we've had Space Jam, and in the same way that those players have been able to transcend basic media coverage, we're starting to see that for some of the ladies as well. Caitlin Clark was on Saturday Night Live for a
Right.
segment, and she actually was on there roasting, Michael Che about his jokes about women's sports. So I
Right.
think that there's a growing audience for it, and we're starting to see them pushed beyond those typical constraints that the media had, but they're still there, and I still have some thoughts on that too.
Yeah, and I know you do. We're speaking with my good friend, my sister, who, by the way, was the first woman sports director in East Texas when she was heading up KLTV, who I worked with her very closely, and she did a hell of a job. So definitely got to shit. I'm gonna ask you something about that too that I don't think I really asked you the last time we talked. Now
Okay, well,
that you're
thank
away
you.
from her, but we're gonna talk about that. So let's go ahead and shift since we were talking about the WNBA and Caitlin versus Angel. This has been a fire ride for a whole lot of debate between these two young ladies. I've said that I thought that their relationship was kind of similar to Magic and Larry Bird when they came in and took the NBA to another level because the NBA was struggling. What is your thoughts? Because we never really got to talk about that. What is your thoughts? Do you think there's this big rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese? And if you do, is it good for the WNBA?
I think a lot of it is manufactured. I think I definitely think that there is a level of competition. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. They're pro athletes. They're at the top echelon of their pursuit. So yes, there is going to be some butting of heads on things and different styles, and they are very different in their styles and their approaches, not just to being on the court, but how their coverage is conveyed outside of the court. And so I think that I think in the way that we've said that the media is starting to give more attention to women's sports, I think that there's been a little bit of extra hype put on that rivalry because rivalry sell. Like you
Right.
said, we have, Magic and Larry Bird. If you think about, I mean, any of the rivalries that go back, or even the big debates about who's number one in any league, even if their eras were at the different time eras, but LeBron and Michael Jordan, I mean, that's a debate that will rage on for the ages. So I think there's always this tendency in sports for us to try to, I say us, the media, but
Right.
and broadcasters to try to pit athletes against each other. But I think at the end of the day, they've said it. They do respect each other, but their styles, they're very different players. They're very different people. And
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that one has the right approach and the other has the wrong approach. I think that that's something else that the media has kind of pounced on too, because Caitlin offers this very serious, very stoic, um, I don't want to say just focused on the court, but that's pretty much how she comes across. It's all basketball. And then Angel, who is an amazing basketball player, but we also have seen her, she did a Victoria's Secret
Right.
ad and in the hair and the nails, and she's been in commercials. And so I think that that's great. I think that we can honor both of those different approaches and different styles to their careers and allow them to be that instead of trying to pigeonhole what's right or what's wrong. So I think that's been part of the rivalry too, is just them trying to make that narrative, but narratives also sell. We know that. And
Right.
at the end of the day, is it probably good for the WNBA? I wouldn't say, pitting women against each other in any capacity is
Mm.
good, but
Mm.
I will say for the numbers and the ratings, when they are playing against each other, people are going to watch. So
Mm. You brought up an interesting fact, and that is correct. You are right. I definitely agree that rivalry does. I think in sports, people want to watch that, and people want to have a good person and a bad person. I want to say it like that because we talking about women, so I want to say a good person and a bad person. Let me ask you this: what? How big is the race factor involved in this, Caitlyn versus Angel, in your opinion?
I think race definitely plays a factor, and it's foolish for anybody to say otherwise because
Hmm.
when you look at coverage of professional Black female athletes, not just in the WNBA, but also uh, I'm thinking of someone like Jordan Childs and what she's done with gymnastics, and of course we know Simone Biles is there's nobody that can touch her. She has, I don't even remember how many moves are named after her
I
specifically.
don't know either. Yeah.
But there seems to be this tendency for people to latch on to professional Black female athletes or those who are competing at the high level like Jordan Childs and chastise them for the nails. Or,
Mhm.
I heard people ask, how does Jordan flip with those nails? She just does it, like,
Right.
and don't act like the nails are the thing that's keeping you from being able to do it. The people that are
Right.
asking that question, it's like,
Yeah, I know, right?
so I
Yeah.
think I think that there's a way that this is being painted as one is more professional than the other. The look is more professional than the other. And I think that just goes back to bias against women of color.
Mhm.
Anything from the nails to earrings and all of those things that we have been mocked or criticized for, that carries over into sports coverage. And
Mm.
so, or even the words that we hear
Mhm.
when you're watching sports, I've noticed this, and I've had a bunch of people point it out as well, or I've seen the comments online that when you see a Black athlete, a lot of times the focus is on you hear words like power and strength, and then you like I'm saying this specifically about figure skating because we just had the Winter Olympics,
Mhm.
and there's a Black duo that's a a juniors pair, world pair from the U.S., and they're taking the sport by storm. But I didn't hear the words that, like, grace and beauty. I heard power, strength, speed. And I think there's bias even in that. And so when it comes down to Angel versus Caitlin, I feel like it's the same way. You're not allowed to embrace culture or have fun, or you're supposed to be so straight laced about it that anything beyond that, anything that embraces individuality is criticized.
Yeah, and you made some valid points, and I'm glad you said that, because coming from a woman of color, I think that's important for you to have point that out and see that that's what's up. CC, thank you for joining us. You're not late, you right on time. CC, appreciate you popping in. Stephen A. Jackson is in the house. And he says, I believe Kobe Bryant, may he rest in peace, was about to open a lot of doors for the WNBA. There need to be another NBA player to step up. Just my opinion, and I agree with Steve. I know Kobe was definitely, obviously he was a girl dad, but he was definitely involved heavily in women's basketball, and he supported it 110%. So I think he definitely would have been able to help, take it to that next level. But I think the WNBA is going to do all right. And speaking of which, let's kind of pivot to this new CBA agreement. Maya, WNBA was in a contentious meeting, trying to get this money, trying to get that bag, and I totally understand. They finally came to an agreement, and now basically, just to summarize it, the average salary of WNBA players now will move from, basically it was like $60,000 per year now to $600K. They're going to get a percentage of revenue sharing. I think it's going to be like 20%. And they're going to have a salary cap for each team that's going to be $7 million, up from $1.5 million in 2025. So, I mean, it's a win-win for the ladies of the WNBA. What's your thoughts on this new WNBA CBA agreement?
I absolutely agree that they should have fought for what was right. And what you said about the minimum salary being $60,000, and you think of, again, ticket sales, merchandise sales, ad revenue that they bring in for their cities and being ambassadors for their cities. Plus there's, television deals, and we're getting more on streaming, able to watch games. So it was a slap in the face, the payment. Now, I'm not saying a $60,000 salary is, because truthfully, that's what most Americans are probably making.
True.
But again, I think when you have reached we're talking about athletes that have gone from, being 3 million of a group of players in high school, to being, one of 100,000 players at the college level, to being one of, I'm just throwing out a number, but 300 players. That's a very elite percentage to keep moving through. And again, those numbers aren't accurate, but I'm just giving an example of how hard it is to reach that top level. And so I think the amount of work that goes into it to become professional, and then again, what you bring to the city as far as but also if we're comparing it to the NBA, and I know there'll be people that say, well, there's no comparison. Maybe there wasn't when the league first started, but that's been 30 years ago almost at this point.
Right.
So
27 years to be exact. You're right.
yes. So when you're talking about, I mean, that's comparing, as they say, apples to oranges. And so I just feel like it was time, when we've seen the increase in attention for the different players, the Caitlin Clarks, the Angel Reeses. And so, and not even just that, the coaches that draw in the attention as well. I think just all the way around, when you're looking at publicity and how it's been elevated, there should be a fair cut of that. And if we're seeing, even at the college level, with these deals and NIL, and if that's being allowed, and there are players making $1 million in college sports now,
right?
How looking at someone like Angel Reese, who was such an icon at LSU, obviously she still got a pretty sizable salary when she entered the WNBA, but
it wasn't more than she was making at LSU.
But exactly, but it's also the fact too that, like I'm saying, you go from college and you get a pay cut Like, what is that?
Right,
So
right. That what kind of sense that make? Y'all tell us to go to college to get a degree to make more money. We come out, we make less money. Don't make sense. You're right.
right.
I mean, you're hitting on some valid points, and you brought up the WNBA. It's been around 27 years, but they had their best ratings last year. They averaged 969,000 viewers per game. Now, this was just average across ESPN, CBS, and ESPN, but there were some games. I mean, there were sometimes they were averaging 1.5 million viewers per game, especially when Caitlin Clark played.
Right.
I understand it. We can't not put our head in the sand and don't believe that Caitlin Clark effect had a big effect on the way people watch the WNBA.
It is true to give
Mhm.
her definitely her props and not take away from her achievement. I think the thing to keep in mind for other media, because not you, I know you're very aware of it, but is that they don't have to elevate one player by putting down another.
Another, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing about when you said women, pitting women against each other. That's the one thing that I would say that's the difference between men and women. It's okay to pit men against each other because that's kind of how it's supposed to be. But everybody talk about women uplifting women. You shouldn't do that. But in sports, I think if you want to be competitive, you kind of have to be a little bit a good guy, a good woman, a bad woman. Don't you think? In my opinion, don't you think?
I think that I think you have to be a good teammate for sure. But
Hmm.
I think being, and I'm saying this as somebody that grew up highly competitive, I couldn't bounce a ball and dribble at the same time. So I didn't go anywhere with that career. Got the heart of a champion in the hands of a science geek. But
Yeah.
I do feel like there is a swagger and a confidence that can go with being a player, and again, I think that that's often discouraged for female athletes of, don't be flashy, don't have the hair, the nails, the earring, all of those different things. But, I'm going back thinking about, Flojo and what an
Mhm.
inspiration she was. And she did all of those things. Wow, it's hard to say that 40 years ago, but
I know, right?
yeah, you got old, but
Thank you, Maya.
kidding. But even if we go back that far to the individuality of it, I still think that you can have a competitive heart and elevate the sport as a whole, but
Mhm,
still be competitive. Because like I said, you look at Steph Curry,
mhm.
he does the night and all of the little hand things and stuff. And when Caitlyn does it or when Angel does it, then there's a bunch of flack for it. And it's like there's a very common difference between the reasons why that is, and it's gender.
Right.
So I just feel like I think it's fun. I think it's fun to allow to have that, like I said, that little bit of swagger and show your competitive side, but you can also do so while elevating the
Mhm.
league, elevating other women as a whole, because with that's like you said, that CBA agreement, they were all fighting for that together.
Yeah,
It doesn't do anything if one person is trying to stand against somebody else just so they can get their paper. So it
right.
had to be a united effort. And so I'm proud of them as well for fighting for each other with that deal too.
Yes, and we are again talking live with distinguished author Maya Thomas-Bethany. Make sure you come in, like, comment, share this broadcast, subscribe to the channels TFG Sports Media, Kendrick Sports Hustle. Speaking of competitive and kind of had the bullseye on our back, we're gonna go to your hometown of Dallas, Texas. And we
Mhm.
got to talk because we didn't get to talk about this young lady the last time you and I were live together. Miss Sha'Carri Richardson versus the media.
Yeah.
She's been kind of the last little incident that just happened a couple of months ago, something about a speeding ticket in Florida. To me, that's no big deal. But considering how she kind of have this love-hate relationship with the media, I never really got to talk to you about this, Maya. Your thoughts on Sha'Carri? She's about to be 26 now. When she burst on the scene, she was only 19, I think. Your thoughts on her and her rise, and sort of where you think where she kind of dropped the ball a little bit.
I do think that obviously, anytime you step into a situation where you are on the top of your game, you're a gold medalist, you're representing a nation, that it does put a target on your back for the media as well to be scrutinized. And I know that the speeding ticket, I think they said she was going up more than 100 miles per hour. And so those are things like, I think when you see those things pop up in the media, she's had some other incidences, domestic violence incidents and arrests at the airport. And then, a few years ago, she was disqualified for testing positive during a drug test. And she talked about that. I think I'm not making excuses for her, and I don't ever want to speak for anybody's situation, but I truly am actually concerned about Sha'Carri. I don't know her. I don't have any personal relationship to her other than she's from the Dallas area, representing Carter and just the whole, South Dallas and everybody being proud of her. Uh, but I feel like she talked a little bit about how at that time of the drug test, she had learned that her mother had passed, and so she was grieving and she was dealing with trauma. I think, and again, I don't want to speak for her, but I feel like there's probably some acting out and maybe some unresolved trauma and grief that is still going on. But I also feel too, in this day and age in 2026, I mean, they tell you when you step into a college campus and you're working in athletics in any capacity, whether you're behind the scenes or you're on the court or the field, that you are going to be watched. That especially now where everybody's carrying around a camera at
Right.
any given moment, you are going to be scrutinized. And so if they're telling college athletes that by the time you become a pro, by the time you're a medalist, by the time you reach that top position in the sports world, you should know that everything that you're doing is going to be meticulously dissected, especially with, it's not just that everybody has a camera now. Everybody has a platform as well to give commentary on social media and make
Right.
comments.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I really hope that she gets whatever she needs as far as love, care, help, because it is compounding. And it's not to dismiss what she's doing because these have all been serious things, but the media is going to hop on it, and they're definitely going to hop on it too when, again, woman of color who embraces, the hair, the
Right.
the
The
nails,
fingernails and right.
everything that she stands for, that is often criticized, that heightens it. And then I think in some ways the media tries to validate that, oh well, see, this is what we've been saying, she's a bad apple. But during the Summer Olympics, I was, in my living room jumping up and down, screaming, run like I was running with her. And so,
Right.
I think that it's
And we
just,
all were, Maya, because
yeah,
I was too.
it,
Right.
it was exciting to watch and to be so proud of Team USA and all of those ladies, not just Sha'Carri, but I do feel like at this point, probably her taking a step back and because the media is just going to continue. It's almost this. I think we've gotten to a point now with athletes, and maybe this started really with we talked earlier about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and the Michael Jordans that came along, when we started having athletes that went beyond
Yeah.
seeing them just as competitors on the court, and they started becoming these media figures and these celebrities and what they're doing. I think that that's the same thing that's happening. And so we've almost got this TMZ effect of
Mm.
watching athletes and dissecting their personal lives and blasting out everything that happens. And so it's part of it. It's part of the territory that comes with it. Is it always fair? No, definitely not. But I think too that you have to be aware that comes with that territory. The minute you put that uniform on, or reach that Nike deal or whoever you're working with, that makes you a target for more scrutiny.
And you're right. I believe social media has definitely magnified it a whole lot more because you and I both know when I'm a little older than you, but when we started in the media industry, I'm just reiterating what you said earlier, Maya. Even when you came to KLTV, social media was not what it is now. I mean, it was around, but it's not as big now. You got content creators that, like you said, they can do their own commentary and this and that, and so now you got athletes that have their own social media accounts where they can actually have their own voice, but that also sets them up to be scrutinized too, because there's a lot of people that gets in their comments that's going to be, try to push their buttons.
Exactly.
So you have to be able to have the right group around you. I think the thing with Sha'Carri, in my opinion, she has to have the right support system. I don't know if she has that, and I could be wrong. I don't know who her publicist is. I don't know I don't want to say handlers, because she's grown. She shouldn't need handlers, but whoever that has her best interest, they need to, you got to give her a little bit of tough love and say, hey, look, you can't move like that. And I think she's done a little bit better job of that in the last couple of years. But she, we are human. We're going to make mistakes. So I'm not going to be scrutinized on every little thing either. But unfortunately, women do, especially black women, get scrutinized a little bit more when it comes to certain things that happen like that. All right. So we done with that stuff. We're going to get to sports, because Maya is a sports person. She's a sports woman. Again, if you just joined us, she was the first woman sports director in East Texas at KLTV. She know her ish. So we're going to talk about her Dallas teams. So we gotta get her reaction. And I don't know if she's a fan of one of these teams, but I know she's a fan of two of them.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I know the one you think I'm not the fan of. But
yeah, you probably know which one. We'll talk about that one last.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that one will be in the middle.
Okay.
We got to talk about the Mavericks trade of Luka Doncic that happened about 13 months ago. I actually thought Ashton Kutcher had revamped Punked, and I thought I was getting punked when I got the alert, and I didn't believe it. And Nico Harrison, I don't know if he's going to ever run a team again. What was your thoughts on when you heard that the Mavericks had traded Luka Doncic? Not only traded him, but traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers.
I think I was probably in that same surreal moment, and I know I yelled "what" at probably 6 o'clock in the morning, because I had that same alert, waking up the whole household. But my background too is I was a ball girl for the Mavericks when I was a teenager. So this is many moons ago. This is when Jason Kidd was a player and not a coach. So that's how long ago it was. The Jim Jackson era, the big three that they used to have for the Mavericks, the 3 J's. And so Jamal Mashburn, Jim Jackson, and Jason Kidd. And so the Mavericks as an organization always will feel like, I guess, a weird, dysfunctional, broken family sometimes. For that reason.
And I can see that too.
Okay. Having watched in 2011 with the championship and celebrating and being excited about that, and watching through the Dirk era, and then kind of seeing it again go through the natural progression of, we had the highs and then the really low lows, and then it felt like, for the first time I was cheering against Golden State in the playoffs. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that, but I was cheering against Golden State because of my Mavericks. And so Luka was a big reason why I was so excited about where this team was headed. And you probably could have pushed me over with a feather that day, because I wouldn't have told you that was a deal that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, did you get to see the press conference with Nico Harrison with Jason Kidd? Did you watch it?
Yes.
Didn't Jason Kidd look like he was like, I don't really know what's going on here. Why am I here? What happened?
I don't want to be here.
Right. That's kind of how he looked. I'm watching. I'm like, he didn't know. I don't think he knew about this.
I think they told him probably what they were like, hey, we need you to come in today. And like they told him when he was walking up the tunnel, like, oh, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Luka gone. He gone.
So not only was he probably thinking, why am I here? He was probably looking at Nico like, man, you did this. Why am I sitting up here?
Right. I don't want no connection to this. This was my move. Hey, you be on your own with this player. But, I think that's, I would say that was probably the biggest sports story of 2025. And I did my top 5 countdown, and I think I had that at number 2, because you don't trade a 25-year-old generational talent that just took your franchise to the NBA Finals, and then you make an excuse. Nico Harrison says something about defense wins championships, and you get Anthony Davis. You talking about street clothes, Anthony Davis?
I'm sorry, hold on.
What? Man, yeah, it's time for you to go to the soup line, Nico. You out of here. But anyway, I wanted to get your thoughts on that again because I knew the background. You had been a ball girl for the Mavs. And speaking of Luka, he dropped a 60 piece on the Miami Heat last night. By the way, he had 60 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals.
It's just like the news cycle just keeps making it hurt more every time. Like I see a Luka story, it just makes me want to cry. Like it's like a bad breakup or something. Like,
right.
Like I just be like, "How you doing, Luka? You doing okay?"
yeah. He done moved on. He like his new woman. His new woman fine. Oh, my new woman fine. I ain't got to mess with y'all no more. I'm good. But anyway, so I had to get your thoughts on that. I got to boot them doggone Cowboys. The Parsons trade. Well, you know how I feel. I ain't tripping on it, but a lot of Cowboys fans didn't have a problem with Parsons being traded. And I don't think you're a big Cowboy. You're a Steelers fan, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I'm not a Steelers fan. No, I'm a Saints fan.
Ah, okay. I knew you wasn't really a Cowboys fan, but that's your hometown. I just wanted your thoughts. What did you think about Jerry trading Michael Parsons?
Well, I always think of anytime I think of the Cowboys, I think of I briefly got to work behind the scenes at WFA in Dallas and got to work with the legendary great Dale Hansen, sportscaster. And I always think whenever there are moves made with the Cowboys, I remember Dale sitting down with Jerry Jones and saying, if a team continues to fail, not make the playoffs, not win championships, wouldn't you fire the general manager? And him saying that and looking at Jerry Jones with a straight face on live TV.
I remember that clip too.
And I think ever since that moment, I have ceased to be amazed by anything that they choose to do as far as hiring, whether it be head coaches, any personnel decisions that they make, head coaches, trades. I know they've brought people back at different points in time, and it might give the fans some excitement, the Cowboys fans, which, to be honest, they are still, for whatever reason, I can't wrap my head around, but they are still the top selling franchise sports team in the world.
Yep.
I mean, over Manchester United and the soccer fans, it's the Cowboys that are still so. Jerry and that side of things, they're always going to make their money because they've got that income from the merchandise, but it's been since the 90s. I grew up, as you said, I grew up in Dallas. I was a Cowboys fan back in that time because everybody in Dallas was a Cowboys fan pretty much in the early 90s with those Super Bowl wins. But over time, it's kind of like looking at if you had a car and it went really fast when you first bought it, and then over the years, like that speedometer kept going down 10 miles every year, and at this point, it's only going about 15 good miles of an hour. You would probably have to trade that in or get a new car, and that's kind of how I feel about the Cowboys. Like, they had their time, and it's been since the 90s that they put out a product, so a championship product. So as far as the Parsons trade, if anybody doesn't want, I'm of the mindset too that if anybody doesn't want to be a part of a situation or wants to be let go or moved or whatever needs to happen, then to allow that to be. But I just feel like the Cowboys can't get out of their own way. So I'm probably going to be getting a lot of hate mail and emails.
You go, hey, join the club. I don't care. You know how I go at them. These Cowboy fans don't get on my nerves one bit. I enjoyed the entertainment, by the way. Okay, but some good news. Your Rangers,
yes,
won the World Series back in 2023. They defeated the Diamondbacks in 5 games? First time in 63 seasons. What was your feelings, man, when your Rangers finally got that coveted World Series win?
So I see a lot of sports fans that will be in tears when things happen, and I make fun of them because I'm like, get yourself together. It's sports, like there's so
Right.
much going on in the world. And then that happened, and then I was one of the people that I talk about. So
Look at
um,
you.
I
Gotcha.
think for me, part of that too is the fact that one of my biggest sports fan heartbreaks was the Rangers going to the
Mhm.
World Series that year, losing to the Cardinals. Um, just being in that position where we had beat the Yankees. Well, I say we, but the team had beat the Yankees to get there, to get to the World Series, and to be hanging on and just hoping and thinking this is it, and then to have it ripped away by, well, I'm not going to name the player, but a player that is scarcely remembered through history. I remember his name, but when you think about who was on the Cardinals at the time and then who it was that delivered the death blow to the Rangers, it seems disproportional. But I think having been so heartbroken when that World Series loss happened, then to move to, I think, being a little skeptical. It wasn't that I doubted that they could win or that they could beat the Diamondbacks, but it was like it broke my heart so much because I just knew after we defeated the Yankees in the ALCS that it was our time.
Yeah,
And
right.
so um I am a huge Rangers fan. Our garage, we got,
Yeah, you
Rangers
know, I
fan
know. I
park
know.
Rangers fan park in here, and like, I've got the flags and all of that stuff. And so I think for me it was beautiful because also too, and this is a shout out to my dad, but my memories of the Rangers are tied very closely to my pops too. And
Mhm,
so he took me to my first game in '96 at the ballpark in Arlington.
mhm.
And it was actually just they were actually playing against the Orioles and Cal Ripken Jr. And I was 16 years old. I've just been saying I was a 16-year-old girl that loved basketball pretty much. That was my primary first love. And then my dad took me to the ballpark and I fell in love with baseball that night.
Right.
So many memories of going to games and being at the stadium and being at the ballpark, sweating out in the noon games when it had no shade over it. These fans now they don't
They don't even know,
they
do
don't
they?
even know. You got AC and a roof. Like
Right.
the noon games on Sunday used to be real without any shade. And
I bet they did.
so
Right.
I think it was just for me, it was just a really beautiful moment because
Mhm.
also in the sports coverage world too, to kind of tie that up, I had watched the Red Sox go through the similar thing.
Same
The Red
thing.
Sox had their curse that never could be
Mhm,
lifted. And
mhm.
then I got to cover them when they were in the division series against Oakland and kind of the whole Moneyball era and watch them over those years where they finally went on to win the World Series and see what that did for that fan base. So I was really hyped for Boston, even though historically I hadn't really rooted for the Red Sox, but it was cool to see it happen. And so when it happened for the Rangers, I understood that same feeling. We weren't even cursed; it just had never happened.
Right, right.
Period.
Right, right.
So,
That's right. That's true. It wasn't no curse. You just couldn't
yeah.
get it done. Right.
So,
Right.
you can't, like they say, sometimes you can't miss what you ain't never had. So,
Uh-huh.
just to know that that was the first one, I'm just hoping that it's not another, a lifetime before they get back and win another one. So,
Yeah. So yeah, well, that wraps up my good friend, my sister, Maya Thomas-Bethany, talking about her Dallas connection. And we're gonna continue on that. She's straight out of South Garland High School. She's a Texas A&M Aggie, ladies and gentlemen, to let you know. And she ended up in sports. Obviously, she loves sports as a sports journalist. And she ended up, I believe, was KLTV your first gig, if I'm not mistaken? Was that your first job
it was my
on
first
air?
on air.
Okay.
I worked
Okay.
behind the scenes at
Okay.
Channel 8. I was a production assistant and
Okay.
a writer for them when I was there. I think I did everything but actually become a actual reporter because I was only 23 or so when I worked at Channel 8. So I was writing packages.
Hmm.
And then that was when I had enough confidence to start sending out my resume reel. And when Tyler, Texas, hour and a half up the road, came
Right.
calling. So
And speaking of that, that's what I want to talk about. Since you're no longer in the business, but you writing has been a passion of yours, sound like most of your life.
mhm.
Uh, you've written a book or two, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, tell me about it.
Well, as you said, I think storytelling or writing in any form, journalism is just storytelling. At the end of the day, you're just telling people the story of what happened. And with broadcast news, you're just doing it at a very fast pace in a short amount of time, with video and sound. But I also wrote for print. I did news articles, like long form features, and I really enjoyed that. And a colleague of mine, I actually had done a piece on Patrick Mahomes.
Mm,
I interviewed his mother and his father and some other players from the area that played with him at Tech,
mhm,
and had put this feature together. And I had somebody, I was at a game, and somebody said, "I read your article." I said, "Girl, you can write. You need to write more." And I think at the time I had been so focused on just getting back into broadcast and freelancing.
mhm.
I was working with was Fox Sports Southwest,
Right.
was Bally Sports, was
Hmm.
FanDuel, whatever it's
Whatever the
at
hell it is now, I don't know. I know. You know, I
now.
know.
And so I was so focused on the broadcast that I kind of had gotten immersed back in that world and not really thinking too much about. I had a story in my head, and so the first book that I actually wrote was tied to at a nonprofit foundation, the 1 in 3 Foundation that supports survivors of sexual abuse in East Texas to get therapy services. And I was realizing that I was getting a lot of invites to go around and talk and share my story with other women. And it kind of became this thing where I had the fictional story that I was wanting to put out in the world first, but it just felt like this God kept putting it on my heart for me to write the memoir, and I
Mhm.
really didn't want to do it. Like I think I fought it tooth and nail until finally I said, "Okay, I'm gonna write this." And so I wrote a memoir. It was called The Return Trip. It was about my struggles as a survivor, about creating a nonprofit. There's stuff in there about being a sports reporter and the struggles of being a woman in the sports industry. 20 years ago. I mean, it's weird to say that, but really back in 2005, it looked very, very different than it
It
does now. And like you said, a lot of that is social media and what it's brought
mhm.
to the table as far as scrutiny. But I wrote The Return Trip, a memoir, and I think as kind of a palate cleanser, I went ahead and wrote I grew up loving John Grisham books, Dan Brown, and I know that they are, white male authors, but I loved thrillers. I loved political thrillers, and I wanted to write one. So I wrote a journalism political thriller because you write what you know about. And it's called The Senator, and it came out in April of 2025. So it's almost been a year that it's released now, but it's a little bit Aaron Brockovich meets the Pelican Brief, and the main character, even though it's called The Senator, the main character is a Black female journalist that writes for the New York Times. So I really have enjoyed that. I took a little bit of a break, and I'm kind of now it's kind of like this annoying thing that keeps poking me in the head of like write this idea. So I'm started working on my third book.
Wow.
And yeah, it's really
That's
exciting. And I will tell you that for the senator, there are
uh-huh.
some shout outs to people that I previously worked with
Oh,
in their own way.
really?
So I'm just saying, Kendrick,
Well,
there,
now I have to get the book and read it. Now, won't I? Yes, I will. Now, where can we get these books? Where are they available? Barnes and Noble. Where can we get them from?
uh, so my publisher is Rising Action Publishing, and they have a
Mhm.
distribution deal through Simon and Schuster. So it's any of the major book retailers or even
Okay.
the smaller ones. So from Amazon to Barnes and Noble, Target, or bookshop.org, you can find them there if you like to support independent bookstores as well.
I'm definitely going to purchase a copy. Listen, guys, I didn't say can I get a free copy because you know how we do as black
I
folks.
was
We
gonna
think we
tell you you could get a copy, but
no, sister, I'm gonna buy a copy because
well, thank
yeah,
you.
because we always trying to get something for free.
My child thanks you.
tell Miles I said hello too. How's Miles doing, by the way?
He is 12, going on 62.
You about to have you a teenager?
He's already a teenager
Wow.
because he's got my strong will and my vocalization of his feelings.
Yeah, because he was he born on your birthday or before? I know he was June.
He's 3 days after my birthday.
Okay,
So
I knew he was around the same time because
we're
I
both
remember your born
Geminis.
day. Yeah, I
So
know. You know, I know. You know, I know. Prince. You know, I got you. I got you, Purple Rain. All right. Okay. I got one or two more questions, and I'm gonna let you get out of here. I want you to talk a little bit about your 1 in 3 foundation because I think that's important. Specifically because I want to highlight women's, history month, and that is something I know that's near and dear to your heart. Kind of just talk about the why you decided to start that foundation.
I really I don't think that I knew how impacted it was kind of what I was saying earlier with Sha'Carri and recognizing sometimes when somebody's struggling. I don't really think that I knew how much of what I endured as a child had impacted who I was as an adult. And so I was blessed and fortunate to be able to go and receive therapy and care and do an intensive and go to a facility that to kind of help me work through that trauma. But while I was there, I was just thinking about how few women had that opportunity. I mean, I left town for 7 days, no phone, no TV, no contact with the outside, with no computers to work on myself. And while I was there, I just kept thinking that other women needed this, other mothers, other wives, daughters, sisters, and just how much it had impacted my relationships as a survivor. So I was very committed to, as part of my own recovery, providing recovery and healing for other survivors. And so, and I didn't feel that finances should be a barrier to that. And insurance, that we always see in the news and the media about health
Mhm.
care and health insurance in this country. A lot of the things that help and work for some people are not covered by insurance. And so, um, I again just wanted to make sure that any woman in East Texas that was looking for services could find that and be connected with a trauma specialist to help them heal and help them work through their journey and
Mhm.
not worry about the bill. And
Right.
so we raise money to be able to send women to a licensed counselor and get that support and the help that they need. And if they can't afford it, then we essentially give them a scholarship to be able to talk with a therapist.
Yeah, that is so awesome. So if someone is needing your services, how can they find you? How can
The
they find?
easiest way is through the website.
Okay.
It's the numeral 1 and then IN, the numeral 3 foundation.org.
Okay.
And then the contacts through there.
Okay. Wow. I definitely, I got a special place for women, period. But that's just, our relationship has been, even though we hadn't seen each other face to face in person, but how I feel about you. I'm so proud of you, of what you've accomplished, what you have done as a woman of color in this industry, and as a wife and as a mother. So, your big brother is proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that too, and I'm
yeah,
proud that you're doing this and keeping your love of sports alive. And I
yeah.
know it's funny. I was talking about having a therapist and healing and everything, but I'm telling y'all that are watching right now that it was a lot of times that Kendrick Henderson was my car therapist on the way to
Yeah.
Texas Stadium or
Or
anywhere else that
wherever
we
we were
had to go for
going,
shoots.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure,
So
yeah.
I'm sorry that I
Mhm.
talked your ear off during those.
No, 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 you did not. No, it was all love, baby. It was all love, baby girl. Before I let you get out of here, have you really? I didn't get to ask you this, and we talk about being the first. When anytime you're the first of anything, a lot of times when you in it, you don't really think about it. But since you've been away from KLTV for some years now, do you sit back sometimes and think about like, wow, I was the first woman sports director in East Texas? Do you think about that?
I think when I was in it, I definitely didn't appreciate it. I definitely know that I did not appreciate it while I was in it. And it wasn't because it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was absolutely what I wanted to do. But I think it was kind of that feeling of I'm here and now I have to work not even twice as hard, 3 times as hard
Mm-hmm.
to prove that I won't be the last. Like, if you're opening that door, then you got to kick it wide open for whoever's coming behind you. And so,
Right.
I think that seeing how many stations in this market, in the Tyler, East Texas market, have since had female reporters, or during the time that I was even working, they started hiring female sports reporters. And the coverage that has come out of East Texas by female reporters, I think that when I see that, there's a feeling of pride, but not for myself. There's a feeling of pride of they are continuing to show that women understand sports, women have the ability to talk about sports, women, I hate to bring up old bad news or bad press, but remember when Cam Newton said the thing about it's so crazy
Yeah.
to hear a female talking about
Yeah.
routes.
Right.
I mean, like when
Mm-hmm.
I was 5 and my brother was playing football, I sat there next to the coaches. So I was learning about routes when I was 5. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's been interesting to see just that continuation in the number of female sports reporters that have been in this area and have been in this market. And I'm proud of them for that reason. And I think if there's any appreciation for anything that I did, it was that I didn't screw it up for anybody else. Sure that they were like grand opening, grand closing. Like they were that I was the
Yeah.
first and not the last, I think, is the
Right.
thing that I'm most proud of.
Right. And again, I want to thank you. Let me see. Can you hear that?
Thank you.
I want to thank my sister, Maya Thomas-Bethany, for joining me tonight as we celebrate Women's History Month. And let me say this before we go. Women's History Month ain't just in March. Women's history is 365 days a year, just like Black history ain't just February.
The shortest month of the year. Sorry.
I know. 365 days of the year. So again, I want to thank my beautiful sister, Maya Thomas-Bethany, for joining me. And you know what? You got to come back.
I would be happy to. I'd definitely happy to talk shop, talk sports.
Yeah.
And it's always good to have a conversation with my big brother. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you. And we looking for that third book. So you got a third book. You say you cooking. You got it cooking. Is that correct?
It's cooking, and I'm going to start kind of pitching it in the literary world in June. So hopefully I'll have some updates for everybody in the summer, hopefully.
And your two books the two books that are out now is the Senator? Is that one of them?
The Senator is the journalism and political thriller, and that's a fiction book. And then the memoir is the Return Trip.
Okay. You can get that on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all that good stuff. Okay. Well, thank you, sweetheart. You enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Tell Jason and tell Miles I said hello, and you guys enjoy. And I got you. I'm getting that book.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Maya. Have a good one. Again, that was Maya Thomas-Bethany, my special guest in celebration of Women's History Month. Again, like I just said just a minute ago, women's history isn't just in March, but it is 365 days a year, just as well as Black history is 365 days a year. So again, I am Kendrick, the sports guy. You can catch me here when you catch me. You just never know because my schedule is such. I work overnight, so I don't know when I'm going to be live. So just make sure you click your notifications on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. That is Kendrick Sports Hustle. That's SPORTZHUSTLE, as well as TFG Sports Media on YouTube. Doesn't cost you a dime. Subscribe to them both. Make sure you like and follow them both on Facebook. You can also follow me on Instagram at Kendrick1969 and on TikTok at Kendrick Henderson51, where it goes down over there on my live. If you ain't followed me on TikTok, you missing the treat because I have to go in on some of them Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, and Minnesota Vikings fans because they come in there trying to give me the business. And you know I don't play that. So it goes down over there. So if you haven't followed me on TikTok, make sure because I'm almost at 4,000 followers. So help your boy out over there. Anyway, so again, thank you, Maya. I so appreciate it. What a great show to talk to my sister. She is doing big things in the literary world, as well as she was doing big things when she was doing sports. So again, I'm Kendrick, the sports guy. We'll catch you on the flip side. Again, I may go live on tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. I got my little grandson tomorrow morning, so I'll be doing pop duties. So we'll see what we're going to do. All right. We'll talk to you on the flip side. I'm out. Peace, love, and light. Deuces.